Turn on live captions, transcripts going. Okay, great. Thanks all. So today, we have a pretty packed agenda. We're going to talk about a lot of things. So we're going to go and review the capabilities at a high level, right? Talk about kind of what we're going to show you. Then we'll jump straight into the demo. So not a lot of slideware. We do have a deck that we have as a leave behind that has a lot of screenshots. And we'll have the recording to share with you as well. We're going to talk about dashboards. We're going to go into, the protocol management and the broadcasting of messages. We're also going to review, Konami's going to go through in depth and review Power Automate and look at some of the behind the scenes flows. We'll touch on facility team assignments and take a peek at auditing. And then from there, we'll actually talk about how we designed the anti-user activity and response tracking from an SMS perspective. We'll look at administration, touch slightly on permissions, and then briefly we'll look at a portal UI example. So we're going to show you model-driven apps, but at the very end, we'll kind of show you just an example of wiring up a form in an automated fashion. So does that sound good? Ralph, is there anything else you wanted to open up, boys?
I think primarily what we would like to focus on is understanding, and for those two examples that we sent to you, how those would actually be implemented using your technology. So I think we're most interested in, again, seeing and not to have it prefabricated, but to do, at least in part, as part of this demonstration, is to see how a protocol would be created and then made available either by, or actually by both, assignment as well as by a clinician to a patient, as well as by self-subscription. So is that included in the demonstration?
Yeah, it is. We will show you kind of how we're managing the protocol, how we're handling assignments, all of that. So again, feel free to ask questions. I mean, this is pretty much your guys' time. We kind of have a demo that we're going to run through to talk about the technology, but if there's something you're not seeing or something you want to see more of, just let us know and we can kind of drill into it. We do only have an hour, and there's a lot of stuff, a lot of content in here. But yeah, we will be covering that specifically.
Hey, right. Ralph and folks. This is Kevin Chodner. I have to drop in a half an hour, so can we? I don't know if you can flip through the demo and get to the important stuff in the first half hour. I'd appreciate that.
Yep, let's do it. So real quick, just want to talk at a high level, right? There was in the requirements, reliability, maintainability, extensibility, scalability, and throughput, right? So D365 and the Power Platform, you're going to hear us kind of use those terms interchangeably, or a part of this and are part of a SaaS solution. So you've kind of already seen this. This is a continuation of the bot demo. So now we're going to focus more on the Power Platform side. As far as all the requirements, the items in bold here are what we're going to be covering specifically. Just due to timing, right? There's a lot of content in here, and we didn't build out some of the other elements. Not that we couldn't, we definitely can. You can see on a scale perspective, we can do everything in the solution. But so we're going to show you the Power Platform, specifically Power Apps on the model-driven side, right? So just looking at the requirements that you sent over and showing you in bold the elements that we're going to cover today specifically. So, okay, Brian saying he's not seeing anything displayed. Is everyone else seeing the slides progress?
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. You may want to rejoin then, Brian, or it could be still loading for you.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, so with that, let's transition over to Konami, and he's going to share with us his screen, and we're going to transition to the live solution, and we're going to take a peek into protocols. Awesome. Is everyone able to see the screen?
Yeah.
See a pipe and bar chart.
Okay.
And several charts.
Perfect.
I look like 5.
Yeah. So this is looking at the Power Platform. This is a model-driven app. And so what you're seeing here is a protocol dashboard. What's important here as we're scrolling through and looking at all this content is this is the out-of-the-box charts and dashboards that we have available. And you can also integrate Power BI dashboards into here as well for kind of some more advanced features. But out of the box, we do have some dashboard capability. And Konami can actually click into this pie chart, right, the purple or the blue, and it will actually, can see elements, see counts. You can do drill downs by field. So anything that you're about to see in this particular solution, we can slice and dice, as we call it, by any of the fields you're about to see. Right now, this is just an example of some of the elements, right? But for the most part, we're going to show you kind of more in depth all of that. So you see he just dynamically changed that dashboard. It's interactable. It's not just, you know, a static report. It's something that he can interact with. So we're going to go through, and just remember, as you're seeing this dashboard, we can display any of the fields that you're about to see. Yeah, question? Okay, so that's dashboards at a high level, right? We can see there's active protocols there on the list, but just basically your standardized kind of reporting with charting, and we'll talk a little bit more about specific charting too as well. You can see there's some SMS protocols there. Okay, so now with that, let's switch into the actual protocol view and look at the management of protocols themselves. So there's a lot of different requirements around filtering and being able to display the protocols, you know, the assignment of the protocols. From this perspective, the model-driven app gives us reporting, but it also gives us a list actively of all the protocols. You can see at the very top, it says all protocols. There's multiple views that can be defined. So we can have a view per facility, per clinician, right, per VISN, different views that'll filter and show different things. Now, the cool thing about views is they're dynamic, so that whoever has access to that particular protocol would see elements that they have access to, right? So as an example, if I didn't have access to hypertension, I wouldn't see it in my list, right? So there's dynamic security role filtering, as well as the ability to specify different elements. All the fields and columns that you see here are just things that we selected to put on the view. Again, anything we're about to show you, we can also put on this view as well. There is filtering as well, so you can kind of filter through on the column of headers itself. We could filter and filter by any of these elements and start typing stuff, saying equal, right? Tons of filtering options. We also have we can search this option as well. Yep, so we can equal, hyper, find all the ones that have hyper in them. Hopefully, maybe not. And then we have search this view over on the right, so the view can also be searched. We also have, there's another little filter icon over there on the right. There we go, hypertension. For more advanced filtering. So if for some reason you didn't want to just do like a column level filter, you wanted to do something more advanced, right? You can build your own filter, your own row, your own fields here to do something far more advanced. So, and then this could be saved off as a view, and these can be personalized, right? So the system can generate views for the individual users, but we also can have their users creating their own views as well to see things that they work with more frequently and things like that. Yep, they can create their own view. At the very, very top, we also have another filtering icon to search the entire system. So there's an advanced find that allows you to develop very, very rich filters and criteria as well to find things. We're not really going to cover that. Just note that across the board, right, tons of filtering and search options and ability to break down multiple views and things like that. You'll notice
think of it. Sorry, Anthony, just real quick, if you don't mind. You can think of Advanced Find as just a user-based querying tool of all the data in the system, so you don't have to develop those reports. Users can build them on their own.
Yep, exactly. And they can share views as well with each other if we want to allow them to do that as well. So you can see there's a ribbon at the top. That's kind of the standard, right? There's a new, delete, refresh, email. If they want to email a link to one of those records, we can run automation here, which we're going to do a little bit later. We also have Excel integration here. So we can actually dump all this data out to Excel if we wanted to view it out that way. We can also import data, bulk import information and protocols in here as well. It's actually how we got a lot of the protocols in here. We did a bulk import here. So that's really it on the views. So now we're going to drill into one of the protocols themselves. And take a look.
If I can just
ask
a quick question. So I assume that this is equivalent to what is our admin view that we have currently in EANI. And so these are, again, based upon whatever rights I have, these are the protocols that are available for others to use for assignment or self-subscription. And this view is where I could go in and create a new protocol, or where I could edit a protocol and make changes to it, and then clinicians who wanted to use that protocol could then later assign the protocol, and it would have the changes that I had implemented. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. We're showing you both the admin view and also sort of like the clinician view. So in your guys' solution, you have like templates, and then within templates, you have the protocols under that. From our perspective, right, we click into management of the protocol on the left-hand side, and because we have kind of dynamic auto filtering of security roles, it allowed us to remove a layer and just have a list of all the protocols. And this can be an admin view of the protocols, right? And then assignment can be, and we'll get into assignment in a little bit, but then from there they can actually see, right, the same exact thing as well. So you're seeing exactly what they're seeing. So it's kind of a combination of the admin view, you're right, to create the protocols, and then maybe like a clinician view, or a vision view, or someone who has assignment of that protocol as well, but they would see far less elements in here, of course. Great question. So now let's go ahead and dive into a protocol. And we'll take a peek at some of the elements that we have in here. There's tons of things here. Again, anything that you saw on the previous kind of view, right, can be added there. This is just showing you, an example of adding all the protocol information. So at the very top, you can see, and this is pretty standard, we still have our tile bar at the top, right? Save and close, new, deactivate. Because we're looking at an admin view, we have more elements. If you were like in a clinician view, right, a lot of those things like new probably wouldn't be there unless you had access to in this particular area. So we have the name, we have an acronym, we have a protocol type as well. Protocol type is, a dropdown, and there's, that's where we have our categorical, motivational, educational, skilled response, vitals, right? So we can change the type dynamically. We have a description of all the properties of the protocol with some options, right? Protocol status, whether it's enabled or not. Protocol prompt, what is actually going to be sent via the text message, what is going to be sent via the response. So this is just showing you the overall layout of how we would kind of lay things out, right? Communication mode. We have our primary contact and SME. So this is the person that potentially could own this particular protocol. We could add multiple elements here as well to do kind of cross-relational things. We can see also we have an owner field, and this is where we're actually looking at a particular individual. And we could also have team assignment here as well. So we could assign this to another team or have the concept of not just a single individual, but teams themselves. You can see we have features on the bottom. So we have specialties, right, conditions, focus areas. So this can go on, right? We can continually extend the form into different sections to add multiple elements. Any questions there? So let's click into some of the other tabs, right? So you can see at the very top, there's assignments, there's facilities, and we're going to go into these a little more later, but just to kind of show you a peek, right? What this is basically doing is this record has relational data to all of these other elements, and all of these other elements can be displayed on one record, right? You can see we have scheduling, you can schedule by days applied, specific days. We had facilities on the previous, we had assignments, and then we also have related. So tons of different things that we have from a capabilities perspective that we can add all of that relational. We'll get more into assignments here in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and transition and look a little bit at the broadcast message. So if we go back to all of the protocol lists, Kadambi is actually going to initiate an SMS message. And then from there, he's going to click on broadcast message to handle the broadcast feature. And then I'll turn it over to him to kind of cover in detail kind of what's happening behind the scenes, how we're handling that SMS message being sent out, as well as capturing that SMS message to be stored back into the system. So Kadambi, over to you.
Thanks, Anthony. Hello, my name is Kadambi, and I'm going to show you that you can select one or more. But for now, I'm going to select this guy, and from here we can select to say, okay, show me. I want to broadcast this message to all the veterans or users that are signed up for this. Like, for example, if you go into the blood pressure monitor, right? If you get into the assignments here, you got this veteran one who's subscribed to this blood pressure monitor. So if I go back and then I sort it by thing, so I can say, okay, I don't have to go in and then manually choose. I can just say, okay, go to this guy. Now say, I want to broadcast this message. When I broadcast this message, it kicks off a flow behind the scenes where it says, okay, this is the Power Automate aspect of it, where this is all drag and drop. There is no code. This is just run. You see how the green tick marks in here, it tells it executed every step. So there are multiple steps. It says, okay, I selected blood record. It's going to get me the ID from behind. It's going to parse it, and it's going to find out the user who's associated with the veteran, and it's going to send a text message and we can sign up for things like either we can connect to all the Twilios we have, or we can connect to Azure Communication Services if we need be, and then send a message based on the prompt text that you have defined in here. It'll capture this prompt text for this assignment, and it'll send that prompt text to the veteran. And once the veteran responds in their phone, this is how it comes back to another flow where it says, okay, I got the information. For example, the veteran has responded BP 100, and we can even capture the phone number from which the veteran has responded. Once we have that, we try to get all the protocols, translate this BP into one of the protocols that we have here, because they're not going to type the whole word in here, right? They're not going to say blood pressure monitor on the phone. That's painful. So we said, okay, BP means this. So that's the reason you have this acronym in here, is to say that, okay, they entered BP, so that means it is a blood pressure monitor. So then it's going to translate that into, that's why it's going to get all the protocols, translate all that, and then it's going to get the user that is associated with the phone number, and it's going to come back and say, oh, we got the list of users that is associated with the phone number. Let's get me the details about that user. He's the veteran 1, and that's his contact ID, and that's his full name. And once we have that information, we're going to create what is called an activity. We're going to store that information tied to the user and to the protocol in something called user activity, which if you go, if I'll show you here, it's going to say, okay, add it to the table, type in the value that they entered, and associate it to the protocol that we just wanted it to associate. Which if you see here, if I go into my user activities and I filter by user activities, it is the RST, my browser is.
You could also go off the user, any user as well, if you want to look at that way.
So if I go into my veteran 1, if you saw that veteran 1 in here, that interactions get loaded up here as a timeline to say, look at this, BP 100 gets associated to this veteran, which is assigned to the protocol. So that's what this does. So the flow again is here is you go into management, you filter, you select the user that you want, and you say, I want to select this, and you want to say, okay, I want to broadcast a message to all the users. And you don't have to, for now, it's just for set. This one is, I'm showing for only one, but you can select more and say broadcast, and it'll kick off this flow. It'll determine who the user is, what kind of prompt you want to send them, and once they've received it, what kind of prompt you want to send them back, say thank you or wonderful day or whatever the case may be. And then it's going to come and loop through, find out all the users that are associated, and try to and puts and stores that information into their timeline activity of that user that is associated to that protocol. I'll pause for a minute before I hand it over, Anthony, for any questions that you might have as to how this capturing works through automation. And there is no code in here. This is all just click and drag.
I think the significant thing is you're keying off of, so the example you gave was BP, so you have a list of codes that tie into a specific protocol, and we just have to manage that and make sure that those are unique and not easily confused
Right.
with the veteran, right?
Correct.
I think
Correct.
It's a good implementation. I like it.
Yeah. So in that way, because phone, right, we don't want them like one of the some of the, at least for me, right? I'm not a veteran, but for me, if I have to type something that big, that's a lot on my phone. So that acronyms, and also it translates that for you. So you don't have to worry about, oh, okay, this is what the user did. Okay, I need to manually intervene and translate. No, you don't have to. This is all, it'll automatically query and figure out what it is for the user, the phone number, figure out who the veteran is, and automatically creates. It's just not the user activity. If you have other tables that you want to capture this and put it in, definitely you can add all that in here and wire it up.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is now we've got the text message back from the veteran with BP. I can't remember what your value was, 100. What can we do with that data now? can we shove that into some other service that the VA has to store that out to a database?
Absolutely. You got the data
So we
in.
can call,
This is
I assume we could call a REST. If we could just call a REST endpoint, I guess is what I'm asking.
yes, you can most definitely call a REST endpoint.
Yeah, so
And with Power Automate, you can. There are a lot of connectors that we showed last time, right? You don't even have to call an endpoint. If you have a SQL server, you can connect to a SQL server, dump the data in there, or you can put it into a blob storage. You can put it in a table. You can put it Cosmos DB, or if you want to call another API somewhere else, you can get the access token that you want to call the API, validate the access token, pass the data into it. You can do parsing of all the functions you want. See that for example, see this is coming in as a raw data like this. So I'm doing functions like splitting out the number from here using built-in functions like string functions and split functions and all to do what I want. And I can manipulate massage data in here. Yeah, you can most definitely call it external APIs.
yeah,
And let's say I had a Hello World REST endpoint. What would that look like in the drag and drop model for people who are creating protocols? Let's say I had a REST endpoint called Hello World REST or something.
Right.
And,
so let me show you how the edit looks like for a Power Automate flow, and then I'll show you the connector for how you want to call an HTTP. And so this is how the flow looks like, right? So you click on in here and you want to add an action. So after you get, then you search for what is called HTTP. And once you do HTTP, here you got HTTP, HTTP Swagger, or a webhook. If you choose HTTP, then you get an option of, okay, is it a post? Is it a get? Is it a put, patch, or delete? And then say, okay, I want to do a post because I'm going to insert. Then here is your URL of your Hello World endpoint. So you type in HTTPS world, and then here is your body where you can type in a full JSON body in here with your authentication key as headers. Or if you have query string parameters, you can type in your query string parameters in the general.
That's good. You showed me enough for what I need to know. Thank you so much.
All right. If there are no more questions.
I have a question. Oh, so that was a broadcast message. Is that what because I'm just trying to wrap my head around what we currently do is clinicians or veterans subscribe to a schedule. And so what you showed us was a push, right? Not a schedule type.
That is correct.
Yeah, this is a mass push out for handling the broadcast scenario. The reason why we showed this is because it shows that we can push as well. So we're showing the initiation of messages. This could also be on schedule based on the scheduled parameters that you saw in the protocols, right? This could be initiated individually. So at different levels, we can do this initiation, as well as this is showing the user capture as well of how we're handling and translating the SMS message from a capture perspective, storing it back into Dataverse. And then from there, right, you could run a whole bunch of different automation. Not only can you run an HTTP REST call against this particular flow, but as a record is added behind the scenes, you could have another flow that then kicks it off and does something else and ingests it within the VA, right? So we stopped at the initiation and the capture because from that perspective, once you have those two elements, you could really do anything from there, right? And those are kind of, I don't want to say the hardest part, but as you can see, right, it's all drag and drop. We didn't really have to write any code. So we're handling the initiation in no code. We're handling the capture in no code. We could also handle additional automation to backend on-prem systems or third-party systems once we have it saved in that user activity. So, and you can actually key off more automation from there.
Right. One of the automation here is you can send it to, you can send text message, you can send emails, you can send both. You know, that's why if you look at the protocol here, for example, where is the blood sugar one? Blood pressure monitor. Here, you know, the communication mode, if they want to be communicated with both SMS and email, we also have the voice where you can also call them and tell them. So you have SMS and email, so you can choose this protocol, could be sent SMS and email, and depending upon how the subscriber, the veteran has subscribed to, no, send me only via SMS. It can be detected all that because these are all completely data driven by just drag and drop, and you can filter that out and send, oh no, okay, for this veteran, they need SMS, perfect. For this veteran, that's email. All that can be done by this broadcast messaging.
So I'd like to see if any of our clinically related folks have questions, Dr. Bent or Brian Bader or Charity.
Yes, I do. This is Dane, and I have created my own flows in Microsoft Office 365. So I'm familiar with what we're looking at here, but I still don't quite correlate how this works with the proposed Annie solution. Who creates the flows? Do we do that? Do we have an expert? Because creating flows it's not a, it's no code solution, but it's still not the most straightforward thing to do. And to create flows for something complicated like Annie, I think would require some expertise.
So this is Brian Hurst from Microsoft. I'll take that one. I think we could really look at what we're proposing here is an alternative solution to Annie, which is based on the Microsoft Cloud platform, right? And this platform, as you're familiar with from a hands-on perspective, offers a variety of benefits that would allow the system to be built, developed, and probably more specifically enhanced and maintained moving forward with a low-code approach. So to more directly answer your question, if you were going to essentially take on a project with a project team of developers, business analysts, however you're going to staff that with, you would have a project of a team to rebuild, replatform, modernize the application. And then from there moving on, you would have a team, a sustainment team that would allow this to continue to move on. So I think that the overall point here is that we're proposing the build out of a solution that could be Microsoft building, could be a combination of Microsoft and your team building, could be a combination of, or just your team. It really, whoever you define sort of that development team to be. But the biggest takeaway is we're building it on these technologies that can be much more easily maintained and enhanced moving forward. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
And one quick adjunct question. The text messaging service is part of Microsoft, or would that be a third party like Twilio or something like that?
So in this particular demo and example, we are using third-party SMS messages from Twilio. That's actually the Twilio logo, the little like button icon there. So because we have an out-of-the-box connector with Twilio, we have hundreds of connectors in the platform, and that's one of the ones that we have. So in this case, you would leverage that or a third party. We as Microsoft also have some services coming to Azure to enable native SMS and other types of communications, which you could leverage in the future if you would like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question.
All right. No more questions? Then over to you, Anthony.
Awesome. So the cool thing about that is, like Brian mentioned, it's dynamic, right? So admins or someone could just build it once. And it's actually, as you're creating new protocols, because it knows that those fields are standard and it's looking for certain elements, it's automatically ingesting and being able to handle new protocols as they're being added as well. So really powerful, right? It's not like we're building one of those for each protocol. Those two flows are handling all initiation for all protocols and all capture from a response perspective based on what's in the system. So
I know we're short on time, guys, but I actually want to just throw in there one of my favorite analogies about this, Microsoft Cloud Stack and the Power Platform. Again, going back to that question, which is, again, great. Like, who builds this? This is citizen developers. So are we sort of citizens building this, or is it, more of a professional development? And I really like to use the analogy of like a Home Depot or Lowe's, right? When you walk into those stores, you have, on your right side, the gardening and the, the lighting and the things that your typical sort of homeowner is able to do on their own. But right there within that same store, you turn left and you head down, and now you have lumber and plumbing and electrical, right? So it's really a one-stop shop to be able to do everything from sort of the lightweight things that citizen developers are doing and you're doing with Microsoft Power Automate today as a user or subject matter expert. But on this same platform, you can truly build enterprise class applications, leveraging the same components but more advanced approaches and expertise applied.
So now let's take a peek behind the covers real quick. We're going to go back up to 14 Kanabi, looking at kind of behind the scenes in from the solution perspective. So looking real quick behind the scenes, how we kind of constructed this. You can see there's just a whole bunch of elements within the solution. So, we did this over the course of several days. Kadabi and Bradley did a ton of work, putting this together. And you can see here there's tables. So behind the scenes from an administration perspective, it's also very configuration-esque. We're adding fields, we're adding forms. So this would definitely be more of the admin view of how the solution is constructed. So I just want to show you a little bit about how the sausage is made. We can also see, there's tables. If we look into a table, there's various columns. So we could actually see all of the columns that exist within protocols. So it's very easy for us to add and extend through configuration. All these elements. We could easily add a new column here, which would add a field, and then from there, that actually goes into the form itself. So if we switch over and look at the form view of actually editing the form, right? This is how it's just drag and drop. So we're creating fields and then we're constructing the form all through configuration. So this is just showing you a quick example of that. So we have the ability to just add new data. So if you're not seeing something here that should be here, right, or you want to change something, it's as easy as creating it, drag and dropping it, double clicking it to rename it, right? So the management aspect of this type of solution is also tremendously easy. And this wouldn't be this would definitely be your admin view perspective to be able to do this, right? And that's where the admins can build it. And then as users, as we switch back over to the model-driven app, and let's go over now back to 21 Kanabi, and let's actually look at assignments, right? So this view here is actually what your end users are seeing and how they can create new protocols, they can create new assignments, and they can do things, right? So now let's talk a little bit about assignments. So you can see here, we have the protocol name, we have protocol authorizers, we can see if they're active or not. Again, same views, same ability to do filtering. We can search the view, we can create our own views, we can export to Excel, we can run reports, we can run automation off of this. So very standard from this particular perspective. We also have ability to do inline charting as well. So you click on that show chart button up at the top, right? There's charts that can be displayed at this level as well for the individual. So this doesn't have to just be an admin view. This could also be a clinician, facility, team view as well for handling the assignments and the dynamicness of assignments, right? So let's go ahead and take a peek into one of these, and it will look a little familiar. Let's look at acute bronchitis. Yep, perfect. So again, looks kind of similar to the other, the protocol itself, because it took us to the actual protocol, right? So here we can actually see, right, this is the same thing that we saw before, but we can also add additional elements to this if we want to. So drilling down into the assignments tab specifically, right, here's where we can define all of the active assignments. And these can be assignments for people that we want to have owners of this. We can also have veteran assignments as well. So if we want to assign it to individual veterans, we can do that. So we're going to add an existing veteran, right? You can see here there's different roles, right? There's an admin role, there's a clinician role, there's a veteran role. So we could also, assign different groups of users as well. And then if we scroll back up, looking at the top, there's new protocol assignments as well. So if we wanted to add multiple people to actually edit this protocol, we have a new protocol assignments as well. So we could easily just add that here. So this view is also filterable, searchable, right? We can run automation on, but that's basically how we can handle assignments dynamically. They can just easily be added by the users if we want to give them access to do that, or if they're creating their own protocols and they want to divvy it out down to an individual team, right? It can go and be relational and do that as well. So.
Question. So when you assign that patient to the protocol, is there a way you can customize that protocol for that particular patient? So does it become its own instance when it's assigned?
Yes, you can. So we weren't really sure how how in depth Annie was based on the demo, like on some of these technical elements like that. So we have the ability to branch off the acute bronchitis into its own individual version, if you will, for that particular facility, for that team, for that VISN, for that individual veteran, right? So we have it at all different levels where you can actually split it off if you want to, right? We weren't sure if that was a need or not, or if it was like a one size fits all. Either way, you have the ability to, do assignments even at the facility level, and it branch off that protocol into kind of its own instance for that particular location or that assignment.
Yeah, so all of our protocols that are assigned become those instances that can be, the clinician changes the time on the form and changes the. One more question is it how, if I was a veteran, is there a way that I could put myself on one of these protocols, let's say through SMS? Could I send a message through Twilio that would then come into y'all and trigger an assignment?
Yeah, if you knew, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if they knew the acronym, right, or if they knew what the protocol was, if they wanted to have a list of the protocols, right, we could set that up. Right now, the system isn't designed to do that. You're also jumping to the very end as well with the veteran view, right, where they could come into the portal and they could see a list of all of them and then assign themselves that way as well. But yeah, signing it via SMS is definitely feasible. Very similar to how we did the intake for the association. If they wanted to do like add and then an acronym, or add and then the name, or get a list of all of them, that's something that is possible as well. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's take a peek at auditing though, right? So with all these changes and being able to, having everyone have this type of view, we really want to look at how does auditing work behind the scenes, right? So when we're looking at a protocol like blood pressure monitor, we can see here as we move this column out to the right a little bit, right? We can see the change date. So not only do we see the change that happened, who changed it, what the event was that they did. In this case, this was us enabling auditing. And then what they changed. So the field that they changed, the old value and the new value. So everything across the entire system is auditable, and we're able to track all of those changes. So as anyone is making any change to any field, whether that's creating new elements or they're changing elements within an existing protocol or an existing assignment or users or any content within the solution, we're able to view all of that, and everything is extensively audited. We can also trigger automation off of this auditing as well. You can see there's a flow there. To be able to do that too. So tons and tons of auditing behind the scenes to be able to see, what changed and things like that. So looking at any users. So let's go over to any users, right? So here's where we would have, a list of our individual users. These could be, veterans, these could be admins, these could be clinicians. In this particular case, let's go ahead and take a peek at veteran 1 here and look at our veteran. So we can see kind of some demographic information. This is just a high level basics. If you wanted to have other information on here, right, you saw it's very easy for us to add that other information. So right now we're just tracking, first name, last name, phone number, and then the user type. And then of course, all the interactions that have happened with that particular user. If we wanted to also add interactions from a protocols created perspective, or from like a teams managed perspective, right, all of those things can be added here as well. But focusing on the veteran, at the very bottom, you can see the timeline of all of those types of activities. And these are all the SMS messages that have come in from the individual. We can also add other activities to this timeline, which is really cool. So there's a plus item there that allows us to add scheduling elements as well, right? If someone had a phone call with the veteran, if they had an email, if there was an appointment, right? All these different types, or we can create our own custom type, right? If there's any type of communication or conversation, call transcripts, right? All this stuff can be tracked, so you get one holistic picture with the veteran for what's happening. So you have that capability, right? You don't have to use it, but it's there. And you can see historically what's happening, and this allows us to do kind of some more advanced stuff. So looking now at the notes, the user notes now on the left-hand side, let's look at the high-level reporting, right? Because really, if we're coming in here and we want to see, under user notes, what's actually happening with this veteran? What's actually happening overall? Across the system, right? Maybe we want to chart some stuff, maybe we want to see some stuff. So all notes across the entire system are tracked in this user notes area. So any response that's coming back from a veteran can be viewed. And of course, this is based on access as well, right? So this is looking at all notes. We could filter it down and look into just the user activity notes, right? Things like that. We also have user activities as well. So user notes shows us all notes and activity, including like appointments, phone calls. User activities shows us specifically, we can drill down and show just the SMS messages, right? And because we have this view here, so these are all the SMS messages in the system, right? We could filter it by veteran. We could do reporting on this. We could share this. We could chart it, right? So we're looking at things in different views, just showing you how we could look at things by all activities from SMS messages, or we can look at it by veteran, right? Or we can look at it by who owns it, by team, by area. So tons of different ways to look and pivot the data from bottom up, right? From the veteran all the way up to the top, or from the top down from the admin view or the facility view or the team view all the way down, right? So tons of flexibility all through configuration to be able to slice and dice and look at records different ways throughout the entire solution. So any questions? I know we're getting close on time. So let's look at administration real quick. Let's dive into administration. And within administration, we have kind of the same kind of view, right? We can see all of our facilities. We can have active facility team admins. We can drill down in here. We can have select if they can manage schedules, if they can manage protocols, if they can assign patients, right? Tons of different permissions. Same thing like before, right? We can chart this view. We can add additional columns. We can export it to Excel. We can create our own views, things like that. But let's go ahead and drill down into one of these teams and take a peek, right, at what they can do. So from a team's, oh, sorry, you're in the right area. Come on, go back to the administration and drill into one of those. Yep. So we can see here, right, we're looking at a facility. So we can create new facilities. We can associate multiple teams to the facilities here on the right-hand side. We can have different owners, or they can be in different organizations if we even wanted to structure it that way. And then we can define all the facility permissions, right? Whether or not that facility has the ability to assign patients, you know, like I said, enable messages, manage schedules, manage protocols. And then we can also see a timeline here as well for all the activity that's happening. So if we wanted to add activity from a program perspective here on this level, we can do that as well. And then of course the facility also has all the associated protocols with this facility. So if we wanted to look at by facility who owns what protocols, we have a protocols tab, right? So we can easily click on the protocols tab and be able to see those. You can see here, here's all the protocols. In this case, this facility doesn't have any protocols, but if they did, they'd have them all listed here. And then we also have the ability to add new protocols to this or existing protocols if we wanted to kind of buy facility from this perspective. We also have all the patients as well. So if there are multiple veterans that are owned by facility or assigned to a certain facility or multiple facilities, right? You can click on patients and the patients tab will show you all the veterans that are associated with that particular facility as well. In this case, there's no patients there. So going back, so now really this is just kind of showing you how we can easily add new teams, new facilities, and things like that. And then let's look at teams on the bottom left as well. So that's from facilities directly into teams. This is actually teams all up, and this is all the teams within the system. There's a ton of different ones in here that are system created. There's some in here that we've created specifically. I think you're in local business owner teams probably. Yeah, there's a, yep, ComCare, disability team, education team. Yep, we can click into one of those.
Actually, I think there's a view specific for Annie as well.
Yeah, there should be a view in there, right? Yeah, there's Annie teams. Perfect. Thanks, Bradley. There we go. So UDO, you know, ComCare, VBA Houston, VBA Call Center. So just tons of different options from a team's perspective to be able to create your own teams. If we click into one of these, right, very similar, right? We can see here's all the team members. Here's, you know, maybe the business unit they're associated with, the call center they're associated to. Again, this can all be extended and enhanced. But at a high level, you have the ability to dynamically create teams, manage the team members, right? Construct and deconstruct them. Go ahead,
So if I'm understanding this right, would we have to set up every healthcare organization within VA, all 170, as their own separate team and set them all up individually?
Is that how you have it today?
Well, today it's connected to Vistas, and yeah, they're, for the most part, those are all separate.
Yeah, I think we'd have to lay out the hierarchy, Brian.
Yeah, there'd likely need to be some hierarchy. We could import that from your existing solutions potentially if you have that already kind of defined. But ideally, there would be some type of team structure. If not, we have the flat teams, right? So you could just import the teams and then the members. But ideally, there would be some type of hierarchy. We also have what we showed you before, which is facility to team member as well. You don't have to build that connection. We just built it because it shows just kind of the connection and allows you to relate stuff better to be able to drill down by facility or drill down by team. Yeah, you could leave it flat, import all the teams, import the users associated, or you could kind of develop a hierarchy and a structure. It's up to you. Either way, we can support either.
If we did it in Active Directory, could you build it off that? So whatever Active Directory changes would change the team structure here?
If you wanted to manage them that way, yeah, you definitely could. You see there's an active Azure AD object ID for a group there that's blank. So yeah, you could definitely import AD groups from that perspective if you wanted to manage it all in AD as well. But then you'd be having to manage creating teams on the AD side and managing them there versus in the solution. But yeah, you could definitely do that if you wanted to, or connect them that way.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's just wrap it up with portals, and then we'll take kind of more detailed questions. We can go back. So now let's take a peek at the portal view. So if for some reason everything we just showed you from the model-driven side you do not like, and you want your own customized view, right, we can do that. So this is looking at portals. Portals, right, this guy is your oyster. It's basically an HTML web page. So you're looking at all of the protocols here in a web page, very similar to how Any has a custom UI. Right, so you can see them in a web page. You can have, actions. So if you click on the next tab there, Knobby, right, you can actually edit and view them and create new and manage it all through a website as well. So if you don't like the model-driven app, we prefer the model-driven app just because it's out of the box, right? Not a lot of customization, not a lot of HTML or code that needs to be developed. It just works just as is. But if you want to, this is also for the veterans perspective, right? Likely they would have a portal. So this would be kind of like the veteran's view of coming into a web page. You can see there's some demographic information on the profile tab there, the first tab that Knobby had, right? This could be all the veteran demographics and information as well. This is where we can track their consent, their acknowledgements and things like that. And on the back end, everything will flow to that model-driven app behind the scenes. But this is just showing that we have the ability to wire everything to a web page very easily. This is all out of the box as well. So on the protocols tab there, that view is actually just a wired, it's the same view. It's all the same data that exists in the system. So as a new protocol is added, it could be viewed here as well if it's assigned, if we're in the veteran kind of persona. So just kind of showing you an example of how we can easily integrate into a web page all of the same data and all of the same record information natively. So. Okay, that's the grand tour. I know we have about 10 minutes left to talk kind of next steps. Is there any other questions? Does anyone want to go back and see anything specifically? I know that was kind of a lot of information. Are there any questions in chat, by the way? Looks like Ryan Bradley can pretty well. So that's it. Is there anything else anyone wants to see, you want to drill down into?
Is there any thing you could tell us about how a bot would integrate with this?
Yeah, so this is picking up from kind of that bot story from the first session that we did, right? So when you look at the Power Automate that Kadambi showed, it was actually integrating into that bot conversation. So when we showed you how all that bot stuff worked, the thought process is the bot would be integrated and be handing off, and this would be the management of where stuff would be stored. So the flow was actually showing you the Power Virtual Agent bot and taking the message and the communication from the bot to the veteran and then storing that. So we have the chatbot integration here. So this is basically a continuation of that bot conversation, but just showing you on the back end what all the UI elements could be like from a modernization perspective.
Got it. Thank you. That makes sense.
Good question. Any other questions?
So I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around like the protocols piece and the patient engagement with it. And maybe we're going to get to that later. So maybe this isn't the time to discuss it, but it looked like your protocols were like a message out, a message back. I mean, do they allow for more complex interactions, or are they all pretty basic?
No, they can definitely have more complex interactions for sure. If you go look at management real quick, Knobby, we can look at the protocols. So looking at I think it was the blood. Yeah, so these are just the elements of the protocol that we can define. I know you guys had, yeah, go ahead and click on blood pressure monitor. I know there was kind of more elements in here, right? So all the properties of the protocol, you guys had kind of more nested properties for response and different types and thresholds and alerts. So we could also add those as well. Again, it just came down to a timing element thing, but it doesn't have to be just a flat, send me something, respond something. You could actually develop kind of some more complex behavior here as well. And because you also have the PVA side, right? You could actually transition back to the bot and manage things from the bot's perspective as well for handling the actual conversation. So we're just trying to demonstrate here the initiation and the dynamicness of initiation, how it can be dynamically for all protocols, right? You can have one flow that's dynamically handling that initiation for every single protocol, and then dynamically also from the bot perspective, because the veteran's actually communicating with the bot, and then we're intercepting that communication from the bot and then storing that, right, as well. So at the very top, his trigger is actually from the Power Virtual Agent. So we're actually having all that bot interaction. So this could be for anyone, right? So it doesn't have to be just oh, we initiated it, right? The veteran at any time could be communicating with the bot, and then based on that particular trigger, we could decide to store that information or not store it, or have more complex conversations, right? And that's all handled from the bot perspective.
And in addition to that, Anthony, last time when we showed, we also asked integration against the Informatica. Like we asked questions like, "Hey, what is PTSD? I have a fever," through the bot, so we can have all that integration too.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Kadami. Yeah. Thank you. Does that answer the question, Brian?
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
Right, yep. Sorry, 301.
This is Dane.
Hey, Dane.
Can a few of us have access to this to kind of kick the tires?
Unfortunately, that we can't give you access to this particular demo environment because it's on the Microsoft side. But I guess that's kind of a good maybe conversation to talk next steps to figure out, if you guys did want to go down the modernization UI route, we could definitely leverage this IP and import it into your solution as part of like an engagement potentially to kind of give you access to all this. That way you could use it in your environment. I don't know what your thoughts were on kind of next steps or how you wanted to go from here, but this is really just showing you a deep dive. So. Any other questions? So Ralph, Kevin, Sean, I guess from here, that's kind of everything. And hopefully we've shown you some of the key pieces. I know that wasn't everything in all the requirements, but that's a lot of the core elements of what we thought was like a priority. Where do you want to go from here, or Brian? I guess, what do you think?
I was just going to kind of pose the question, Anthony, for the greater team. I mean, what you showed here is a lot, right? There's a lot of elements of what would make up the system, and the goal, of course, is to be sort of illustrate the art of the possible. It's working functionality, right? It's real software. How many hours would you say that the team sort of put into building this out in terms of the illustration of how rapidly you can create these things?
Yes, we had 5 working sessions kind of to review everything, all less than an hour. Some of them were 30 minutes, and the 5th one, of course, was to prep for the demo. Bradley, Kadambi, and myself, spent some time in some working sessions, but overall, I mean, no more than 8 working sessions, I would say, to develop this particular solution over the course of from when we last talked last week to now. So really rapid.
So 16 to 20 hours, no more than 20 hours to do this.
That's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Brett. I mean, I just want to caveat that this is also, this is not your full list of requirements. There may be some things that might be slightly different if you were to build this out just based off your requirements. But yeah, this was done in the time frames that we're saying. This was pretty quick. Like that dashboard right there, I built that dashboard. Every one of those charts you can build in probably 4 minutes each, and then you just place them on the chart. So that whole dashboard, just an example, that's 15 minutes right there to do that dashboard.
Yeah, so the system is very agile and is very quick to configure. I mean, you saw us and kind of showing you the protocol form as well, right? Really easy to just add fields dynamically, add new scenarios, right? We didn't even get into business process flows or anything like that, but really easy just to click and drag, add fields, right? Put the properties you want for the fields, and then you're good to go. And it's live in the system. It's published right there. So that's the power
Dane,
of
there's
Power
another
Platform.
question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dane.
I just so that I understand clearly, still a little unsure. Is the equivalent of a protocol in Annie, is that a flow here?
No, so in Annie, you have templates, and then under templates, you have the individual protocols. It's the same. So our protocols are the same as yours, right? You have kind of the name of it, you have the properties of it. So this is taken directly from the reverse demo that you guys give us. These are almost all the elements that you have on a protocol itself, right? Missing a few things, but for the most part, this is a one-to-one, right? Your protocol to our protocol. It's just looks different because it's in a model-driven app versus in the website.
And
So where are the templates in here? The equivalent of the templates.
that's what I was going to suggest. A template. So Konami, click new. Okay, so this could be a template for a protocol as an example, and then your assignments play into your templates. So those it's the same place. When you're creating a new one, you're creating, it'd be like almost like the VA staff, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Anthony, but the VA staff themselves would create the templates, whatever you want the template to happen. This could be a blood pressure template as an example. Okay, you can make that available for the facilities to complete that, and then they can do their assignments against their custom. So the templates could be managed through security, and that could always be managed by the VA team, as I think you're doing today. But then you expose that template out, they can pick which templates, and then the facility can just complete the template. If they want to change around the SME contacts or the communication mode, anything that you're seeing on that screen could be used as a template. It's kind of a combination of a template as well as the completed protocols, which are no longer templates. It's a form. It's just form-based at that point.
All right, let me ask from a different point of view. The piece that says at 9 a.m. every Thursday and Friday, send this message to the patient. Where's that in here?
That's right here. That's under the schedule settings. So all the scheduling of, you know, what day, what time, when to send it is all under scheduling.
Okay.
This could be called, it says new protocol. This could be new protocol template. Think of it that way.
And where's the message entered that you will be sending?
That's on the general tab under properties. You have the protocol prompt and protocol response, and then the communication mode. So this is what defines dynamically. You can type in whatever you want, and then that's what's actually going to get sent to the veteran, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Are we able to enter multiple templates?
Yes, you could. You can create as many protocols or as many templates as you want. Again, we flattened the structure because new is kind of the ability, right? So based on category, if you had a protocol type, for example, click on the protocol type, Kadambi. So if you click in the protocol type up there on the top, right, it can dynamically change the form as well, right? So if, you know, categorical has different templates, or motivational has different templates, or educational has different templates, right? The form itself can change dynamically based on that, or any other criteria that you want to define. Did that answer your question, Charity?
Kind of. So the way Annie is currently, the template types are what we're seeing here: categorical, motivational, educational, scaled response, and vitals.
Right. We flattened templates into just protocols for our demo purposes, and then added that to the protocol itself and attached it. So a little bit different. If we wanted to make it one for one and make it exact, we could definitely do that, right? We could add templates and then from there add protocols under it. We just, from a design perspective, chose to go this way because it's easier to surface data once it's flattened versus kind of nest within that relationship. But we could have nested it if we wanted to. Great questions. Yeah, so templates are flattened, and we just have protocols, and then each creation of a protocol could dynamically define the template based on user role, based on criteria, and things like that. Is there any other questions? I know we're a little over on time.
Thank you very much for the demo. You guys did a great job getting through a lot of material today. Appreciate it.
Awesome, of course. Okay, so we will PDF the deck, send it out, and then we'll make the recording available as well to everybody. So if there's no further questions, we will go ahead and wrap.
Thanks for the extra time, everybody, and team. Great job putting it together. It looks great.
Great job. Great job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.